Your best clients are already on Facebook. The only question is whether or not your system is making you the decision they land on, because buyers don't casually scroll on Facebook. They're coming there with intention, looking for solutions, and then quietly deciding. So that decision is happening a lot faster than you think. It's happening the moment that they land on you. So for most founders, that moment is really empty. There's no structure that guides the decision. There's no buildup of conviction, and there's no clear path that takes a buyer from interest to certainty. There's just content and this assumption that eventually that will convert, and it doesn't. Because I want you to understand that Facebook isn't a content platform, it's a decision environment. So every single part of your marketing is either going to move someone towards a decision or it's going to lose them in the moment that matters. So inside this episode, I'm going to show you the complete marketing system behind how to utilize Facebook, designed for that very specific moment so that when the right person lands on you, they're able to decide. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk, the show where we cut through the noise and get brutally honest about what it actually takes to grow a successful business in half the time. And I'm your host, Echeverria. I help established founders and CEOs become the category leaders by turning their expertise into a self-selling system using the Netflix effect. Now, last week, we got into what I call the instant client system, specifically how most marketing strategies are actually built for your slowest buyers, which means slow buyers are exactly who shows up inside of your business. So we broke down how you actually flip that, how to build your message, your method, and your mechanism around a buyer who's actually ready to make buying decisions. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, go back, because it's going to set up every single thing that we talk about today, because we're going to take it one level deeper. We're not just going to talk about attracting the right buyer. We're going to talk about the complete marketing system that you can utilize on Facebook so that when the right buyer finds you, they actually end up choosing you and doing it all on the easiest platform that's built for the fastest decisions, which is Facebook. Now, I want to start by helping you understand that the most successful marketing systems in the world are not built around content. They're built around decisions. So a great way to think about this is the last time that you went to Costco, you probably walked in for two things, maybe paper towels and coffee, but you ended up walking out with $300 worth of stuff that you didn't actually plan to buy, but you felt really good about it. Now, that process was not accidental. It's very, very intentional. Costco actually has a name for it internally. They call it the treasure hunt. So every product placement, every sample station that you go through, and every aisle is actually built very intentionally, to the point where behavioral economists have studied it for years and came to the same conclusion that nothing inside of that store is random. Every piece of what they have is playing a very specific role in moving you towards the next decision. It's like a small series of yeses, so that by the time you reach the checkout line with a very full cart, you're excited about everything that you found. Nobody convinced you. Nobody followed you around. Nobody followed up with you. Nobody ran a nurture sequence. It was the system that ended up doing the work. So what does Costco understand that most service businesses don't? That a decision doesn't happen in one singular moment. It's built step by step through an experience that's designed to make the next move they take really obvious. So I want you to think about your own Facebook marketing right now. Maybe you have ads and someone finds you, they read a post, maybe look at the comments, and then they disappear. That's not because they weren't interested. It was because nothing inside of your process was designed to move them towards a decision. So the businesses that are getting high paying clients repeatedly are not creating more content. Instead, they've built a system that's actually creating and accelerating decisions. So let me rewind for a second so you can clearly understand what we're talking about, because you didn't get to this point randomly. It started because you had this idea of what things would look like for you in your business. This idea that high paying clients were going to come in consistently without you having to chase them or wondering where the next one was going to come from. You wanted this idea of inbound leads, right? People who already get it, who want your offer and are ready to move. And you wanted a more self-sustaining business where eventually the hopes were that your marketing would be a little bit more hands-off. People were finding your business, they were deciding, they were reaching out, and that was happening on repeat. That was the intention, the goal. Now, someone told you what you needed to do to get there. They told you to show up on Facebook, post valuable content, engage in the right groups, run ads, stay consistent, master the platform, right? All of those things that you ended up doing, or you hired a team to help you do. Now, what ends up happening is when it didn't produce the results that you wanted, you did what most founders do and you scaled the inputs. So you added more budget, more content, more team behind the work, and then more platforms that you add to the mix. Because if Facebook wasn't producing enough, maybe the problem was reach, maybe it was volume, maybe it was was that you just needed more of everything that fed the machine. Now, this idea that getting high paying clients repeatedly is about doing more of the right things on the right platform is the problem. Because when it's not working, the answer is always going to be that you need more. So it's kind of like putting money into a vending machine that keeps spitting it back out. At some point, the problem isn't the dollar, it's the machine. So what does the machine actually look like? Now, for most founders on Facebook, it's going to look something like this. You have a content strategy, you're posting in groups, you have ad campaigns, lead magnets, follow-up sequences, outreach systems, right? All of it is built around one singular belief: that if you show up enough in the right places with the right message, the clients will come. Now, that belief exists because visibility does matter. Content does build authority. Ads do generate leads. Those things are not wrong, they're just incomplete. So every single one of those strategies was built to do one thing: to get attention, not move someone towards a decision. And you can prove that to yourself right now. Look at every single thing we're taught, from Alex Hormozy to Russell Brunson to every social media strategist out there. They're telling you that the priority in business right now is to get attention and keep attention. Now, that is problematic because we need to understand that when we are trying to get buyers, we're not trying to gain attention, we're trying to gain a decision. So when you're on a platform that was specifically built for decisions, that gap is going to end up costing you. You're not just losing high paying clients because your content isn't good enough or your ads aren't optimized enough or that you're on the wrong platform. You're losing them because the system stops before the decision is made. So nothing inside of your system is actually designed to take someone from finding you to choosing you. So no amount of activity is going to fix that. And creating more content is only exacerbating that problem. So remember Costco? They didn't build their store around getting people inside of the door. They built a system where every single step made that decision easier. The path, the samples, the placement, all of those things are connecting you and moving you forward. That is why the key to having a marketing system that's going to repeatedly bring in high-paying clients on Facebook is to stop building for attention and start building for decisions. This is what I call a decision demand system. When you have this in place, the right people who are already in decision mode will end up finding you. They will move forward without friction. They will make decisions easily, quickly, and autonomously. So I want to break down for you how the decision demand system works, starting with the first component of what I call demand visibility. Now, here's the thing you need to understand about this is that demand already exists. Right now, there are people on Facebook right now who have the problem you solve. They have the budget. They are ready to move. They don't need to be convinced. They're waiting to find the right person. The issue isn't demand. The issue is that most founders build their marketing strategies that never get them in front of that demand. So one of the most overlooked places that demand lives on Facebook is inside of Facebook groups. These are the existing communities where your ready buyers are actually already gathering. They're already having conversations about the problem that you solve. That demand already exists. Now, most founders are either bypassing that opportunity completely or they're showing up in a completely wrong way. So the first is that a lot of founders are skipping other people's groups entirely. So they don't realize that these communities right now are one of the most direct ways to get in front of ready buyers, because these people are asking questions, they're showing up, they're looking for something, they're very built around specific niche topics. So what they're doing as founders is leaving one of the most targeted audience groups on the platform completely untapped. So when Facebook ads made shifts where targeting became more and more difficult, people didn't realize that, hey, there's Facebook groups where targeting is completely niche. You can find people who are Australian startups, right? You can get really specific and you're gathering a group of people who are quite literally looking for solutions that you can now solve. Now, the second problem is that most founders who are using groups are doing it completely wrong. So how they think about them is wrong. They treat groups like it's a stage. They're going live, they're posting constantly, they try to take over the conversation and build authority and get seen. All of this to try and get attention. That is not what a group is meant for. Specifically, again, we're speaking to other people's groups. So we want you to understand that when you do that and you are posting inside of Facebook groups that way, it's kind of like standing on a street corner and handing out flyers to everyone who walks by. Yes, some people are going to take it. Most people are not. And the people who do are rarely going to do anything with it. Demand visibility instead is knowing exactly which room your ready buyer is already sitting in and walking in with a message that's built specifically for them. So a group is an audience, just like the audience that you're going to target with ads. And just like ads, it's not about dominating the platform, it's about distributing the right content to the right people inside of it. That content that is built for decisions and not attention. So here's kind of what this looks like in practice. The wrong approach would be something like, here's posting 5 tips to grow your business inside of a Facebook that's trying to get authority and engagement. The right approach instead would be posting content that speaks directly to a specific problem that a ready buyer is actively trying to solve right now with a clear next step. So I've done this in 5 to 10 different groups that we're in, and we've had to shut down ads because we're getting more leads and more buyers directly from groups. And the reason why is we're using the same audiences but with a completely different result. One is you performing for attention, and the other is distributing your content for decisions. The same thing is true for ads. Most founders are running ads the same way that they're posting in groups. They're trying to perform. They're trying to say, look at me, here's my value, here's what I do. Now, ads are not your stage, they're just a distribution channel. So when you treat both groups and ads as a distribution channel for your decision focused content, you're going to point to those ready buyers and everything will shift. So you stop trying to get attention from everyone and you start getting in front of the people who are already deciding. Now, the concept is really simple. You have to stop performing and start distributing in front of decision ready audiences, but knowing which groups are the right ones for your business, what decision focused content actually looks like for your offer, and how to make sure that every single piece is pointing to the right person and to the right next step. That's where most founders end up getting stuck. So we built a visibility strategy specifically for that. The way it works is in 30 days, you use Facebook groups. It takes 1 hour a day, 5 posts a week. And the reason that it works is that there's 3 key things. Number one, it's going to target active buyers. There's not passive scrollers. We have a very specific way of how we target the buyers inside of the groups. Number 2 is it's building buyer intent from the very first introduction someone gets to you. A great example of this is I see people all the time that are like, come join my Facebook group. You're not building buyer intent. You're getting people who just want to hang out. You have to know specifically what is going to trigger buying intent from the very first time someone meets you. That is the intention. We want to bring in people who are looking to make buying decisions, just like you do on ads. You don't want to try and warm people up. You want to get people who are already actively looking to make that decision. And last but not least is it actually increases your reach quickly and easily without building anything new. You're not going to go build any fancy things. You don't even need another Facebook group. You don't need to do anything else but have the content that's specifically driving those people. So no new platforms, no new audiences, no new infrastructures. I've quite literally helped clients who are making 7 figures and have used predominantly ads prior to it, leverage Facebook groups and be able to cut their ad spend in half because of what they're doing here. This is completely going to change the way you do things. So when you understand this and you have the right strategies inside of the communities that your buyers actually are, and understand how to utilize ads in an appropriate way, that is what we call demand visibility. So I want you to ask yourself one simple question. Is your Facebook strategy right now, the way that you are building visibility, is it built to get attention from everyone, or is it built to get decisions from the right ones? And is it driving decisions from the moment someone meets you? Okay. The second step in this process is what I call demand activation. Now, this is where most founders have the biggest gap. And it's not because they're not creating content, it's because the content that they're creating isn't built around what ready buyers are actively wanting right now. There is a big, major difference between what you think your market wants and what they're actively willing to pay to fix. Guessing at that desire is a very expensive lesson that honestly most founders don't even realize they're making, and I see it all the time. You might think that by hiring a marketing team or engaging with an ad agency, you're going to offload this. The reality is it's simply an overlooked growth strategy. Most people don't understand this. So I want you to think about it. You built your business and your offers because you knew people needed this solution, right? That need exists. That need does not always correlate directly with desire. So it's this idea of lead with the want, deliver the need. A great example of this for myself inside of my own business, I built something knowing that founders needed innovation assets to become category leaders. Nobody's searching for that. Nobody gives a crap about an innovation asset that helps people become a category leader. That's not important. What I had to do and acknowledge was what the market actually wanted. So I find these specific categories, things like premium clients who are happily paying 5 times more, how to land 6-figure clients, this how to stand out without competing on price. Those are different angles that lead to the same destinations. So when you start leading with the desire that already exists inside of your market, everything shifts because the people are now raising their hands because you're speaking their language and not your own. That is what demand activation starts with, finding and speaking to the desire that your ready buyers actually already carrying. We use what we call demand tests, this process that actually helps us identify and validate the specific desires that already exist in your market inside of your ready buyers and what they're looking to solve right now and what they're looking to pay for. So you're no longer assuming, guessing, you have actual validated demand. And just to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like, not only is this going to make your ads perform better because you're no longer just testing creatives and copy, you know specifically the angles of what gets people to say, yes, I want this thing before you go through a process of testing. You no longer have to build different offers, different workshops, different things that are trying to capitalize on where the demand is. We can test that and utilize existing things that you already have. When I tell you this cut my clients' ad cost to the point where their cost per lead was a 1/3 the price that it was before, where they were able to take existing offers and be able to bring massive amounts of new people into it simply by understanding this, this will change everything. And it's crazy to me that most people don't understand how to do this. So speaking to desire is only half of it. Okay. Once we understand that piece of it and realize how to create that, the other half is knowing how to direct it. So this is where most founders are going to drop the ball a second time, is because they create content that's going to resonate and people will engage, comment, and react, but then nothing happens after it because there's no mechanism that's built to take that activated desire somewhere. So we use 2 mechanisms for this. The first is a simple 2-step post, right? Content that's going to speak directly to an active desire, and then it's going to direct them to a specific next step. So specifically for us, we use episodic content. That could be a podcast episode, a bingeable series, an asset that's built to convert that demand. Everything is working together. None of these are built around a mechanism. Mechanisms support the process, but ultimately it's about how we actually do that. So our content system specifically is built to create and nurture that intent as they're coming in. And then our conversion assets are what are converting them from there. And we're going to get into that in a second. So both of those things are going to do the same thing. We also use what we call disruptive belief shifting, content that's going to challenge that belief that's already keeping your buyer stuck. And it's going to redirect them to, again, this new way of thinking, points them to the asset that walks them through it. Everything we build literally starts with episodic content and then takes everything and builds around that. And it's very purposeful why we do this. And both are kind of doing the same thing. They're taking an active desire that exists in the market, they're moving it forward, not into a random void. And it's built to convert it. Now, that's something, when we are driving it to the next step, is how that asset turns activated demand into decisions. That's what we're going to cover next. But what I want you to do is ask yourself this. Are you leading with what your active ready buyers actually want right now? Do you know what your market wants right now? If you are struggling to get people to raise their hands, move forward, and do they know once they are actually really interested in what you're doing, the desire that is, when they resonate with that, are there mechanisms that's going to direct that desire somewhere? Those are the 2 things you need to ask yourself. So 1, are you leading with what your ready buyers actually want right now? Do you know what people will pay for right now? And do you consistently know how to test that? The second is, once someone does resonate with your content, is there a mechanism that directs that desire somewhere? Likely the answer is no. Okay. So let me take you to the third component, which is what I call demand conversion. This is where the system is going to complete itself, right? You've become visible to ready buyers. You've spoken to their active desire, directed them to an asset. Now that asset has one job. It's going to convert an activated demand into a decision. So most founders get this part wrong in the same way they get everything else wrong. They think more is better. More content, more episodes, more information, more proof. That is not how buying decisions actually work. Again, going back to Costco, nobody walks out having bought everything in the store. They walk out having said yes to the right things in the right order. Every small yes is making the next one easier until the big yes feels completely natural. That is exactly how demand conversion works. I call it mirrored decision making. So your brain has a very specific checkpoints that it needs to hit before it commits to a decision. So they're not random. It's a very specific sequence. Our brain does it every single time it makes a decision, whether it's it's what are we making for dinner tonight, or should I enroll in a program, your brain's going to go through the same thing. When your content mirrors that sequence and it gives the right information in the right order, that decision is not going to feel pushed. It's going to feel really inevitable and really freaking easy. So most founders are throwing out content to their audience, hoping that something lands, like a podcast episode there, a post here, a webinar, a video, a testimonial, all really valuable content. None of it is sequenced correctly. So the buyer's getting a lot of information, but they never get conviction. And more importantly, it's creating decision fatigue because we are at an all-time high of so much information and having to process that information. The more our brain has to sit through information and try to categorize it and decide if it's what I need, the harder that decision becomes. And more importantly, the most likely it's going to repel your buyers. Mere decision making flips that. Okay. Every piece of content in your asset is a checkpoint. Every single one is building on the last one and making that buyer move from the state of, I get this, to interest, to belief, to decision. They are autonomously going through it, meaning they are self-selling themselves through that process because of mere decision making. You didn't convince them. It was because the sequence did the work and it did it correctly. When that asset is engineered correctly, the right person can come into your world, find you, reach out, decided that they already are ready. No more long sales cycles, no convincing, no chasing. When I tell you people meet us and decide in 48 hours, it is not because we are overwhelming them with content. It is because we have built a system that mirrors how decisions actually get made. Okay. People do not understand this, so they bombard people with content and it only slows down that decision. So I want you to ask yourself this: is your content just giving people information, or is it moving them through a sequence that builds conviction checkpoint by checkpoint until that decision feels obvious? Okay. Completely different things. So we just talked about the fact that there's demand visibility, demand activation, and demand conversion. All three of those components are all part of one system. Now, all of those things are engineered around one thing, that decision. I want you to walk away from this episode acknowledging and realizing your marketing system, specifically on Facebook, should be geared towards a decision and not attention. Now, the same thing goes if you do this on TikTok, if you do this on LinkedIn, if you do this on Instagram, same concept applies. The tactics are just slightly different, okay? When you do this correctly and all three of those are working together, you stop chasing attention, you start accelerating decisions. So the right people will find you, they'll raise their hand, and they end up converting. No more convincing and chasing, all without having this sales cycle that's going to drag them. That is what a complete Facebook marketing system will actually look like. So the decision demand system is just one piece of how we actually help our founders turn their expertise into a self-selling business. This is like the application of that, okay? Now, the reality is your best clients are not looking for another take on the same thing, right? They're searching for a breakthrough that makes them sit there and say, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. So while most businesses are fighting for attention, smart experts are making their competition irrelevant. That is what the easiest method does. So it starts with what we call innovation gap methodology, where we're going to help you uncover and articulate what makes your work truly innovative by actually pinpointing the gap in the market that only you can fill. So you're no longer going to be just one other option. You're going to be the only option for your high intent buyers. This is a highly engineered approach that allows us to find the blue oceans in your market. So how do we find innovation gaps? The spaces where people are desperately looking for solutions that don't already exist. And then from there, what we do is we look at how does your offer, how does your solution currently solve for that gap? And then lastly, where are the opportunity points going forward that you can now create new solutions to solve for those gaps? So you're getting a complete innovation process that allows you to capitalize on how to create innovation and how to plug for innovation that already exists. So this step alone allows my clients to 5 to 10x their prices, and they have clients who line up to work with them. So once we have that, then we can turn that innovation into an asset of what I call a bingeable decision system. So just like how Netflix gets you to binge their entire system without taking breaks and you become a diehard fan, your buyers are going to do the same thing with you. So they're going to binge their way through your sales system, becoming obsessed, selling themselves on you every single step of the way. Again, the reason this works is because it's built around mirror decision making. So we are mirroring the decision process. So buyers are coming out eager and ready, begging to get on your calendar. So you're no longer having to chase no more but months of back and forth, just a simple system that gets those leads to sell themselves. Now, finally, is that we need to talk about how you apply your innovation asset inside of your happy client machine. So this is the systematic approach to delivering your world-class results at scale without being fully reliant on you. So you can franchise, you can license, you can create a legacy, you can create a business that is quite literally going to surpass what you do right now because you have a process that can now take over what your work is right now. And now you have clients who are singing your praises while you're actually enjoying your life. This is the power behind the easiest method. So I want you to take a step back and realize that if you're an action taker and you want to see how the easiest method can be applied inside of your business, I want to invite you to apply for a growth optimization call. This call is where you and I are going to sit down. We're going to look at what your current acquisition strategy is, how you're positioned in the market, where your innovation lies, and how you can actually turn that into a decision demand system. And I'll show you exactly what that would look like for you if we were to work together. So you can go book your call right now by heading on over to easyesleads.com/call to apply. Now, if you're new here or you just want to go a little bit deeper on how we leverage the Netflix effect, how we built this system that gets leads to sell themselves, you can check out our limited on-demand series that's going to walk you through the exact steps of how we turn your expertise into a self-selling methodology and gets your clients to sell themselves by heading on over to easyesleads.com. Now, I want you to have walked away from this episode completely thinking differently, not only about business growth itself, but specifically about how you build decision systems that are getting your clients to sell themselves, to market and move through the process. So I would love if you could take 60 seconds to just rate, review, and share this episode with a founder who you believe would need this, because not only does it mean everything to us, but it helps us get our message into more hands of true CEOs who are making a difference in the world. So until next time, here's to keeping it real.